These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations.
See, we didn't read all of them. He named a bunch of sons because there was a lot of nations that came from Shem. Not just Israel. Israel didn't come along till later, but other nations came from Shem as well. And I just named the Edomites over there who call themselves Jews. We know they came from Shem. That's why they like to use the term anti-Semitic, because they know they came from Shem. But they're not the only Semitic person. The Arabs come from Shem. They didn't come from Japhet. They not Gentiles. They didn't come from Ham. They not Hamites. They Shemites. They come from Shem. And we are another people that come from Shem, because we know we are descendants of Israel, and we're going to prove it. But now, he said, these are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations. So God made all these nations, starting with these three sons. He started making nations, and we got a multitude of nations, languages, tongues, right now. But the important one to God is still Israel. And you can find that throughout the Bible. Read verse 32, and then we're going to move on.
These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generation, in their nations. And by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood.
See, this is when it began, after the flood. They were divided in the earth, but we saw they were still divided in the earth according to the number of the children of Israel, didn't we?
That's right.
But now let's go to Amos, the 3rd chapter. Let's flip over to Amos, the 3rd chapter. So it's an important fact who this one nation is, Israel. But the only problem was we are the people that knew God and messed up. That's why we don't even have a clue to this day. Amos, the 3rd chapter. And he's going to start to tell you that right here. Because since it's an important fact who Israel is, it comes, like the Bible said, we read it last week, to whom much is given, much is required. You got much responsibility. So being that God gave much to Israel, much was required, and when we messed up, hey, it cost a whole lot. Notice what he said right here. Because he started with Israel when they came out of Egypt, when he used Moses to bring them out, and he's been dealing with us since. Amos 3:1. Go ahead.
Hear this word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel.
See, the whole Bible is basically addressed to Israel. Once the Lord set things up, got all these nations, he took him one out from all the rest of them and said, look, I'm going to work with you. Not that he don't like the other ones, but he going to deal with the other ones through this nation. That's how God do it. So the whole Bible is addressed to Israel, so this is nothing new. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken unto you, O children of Israel. What did he say to the children of Israel?
Against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt,
See,
saying,
the whole family that I brought up, the whole nation that I brought up from Egypt, that's what he's talking about. Because that's what he did. Israel was slaves in Egypt. Remember, Egypt come from Mizraim. We're going to get back to him. Come from Mizraim. Egypt are Hamites. The original Egyptians are black people. They Hamites. Arabs run Egypt now. They Semitic. But the original Egyptians straight up black.
That's
Hamites.
right.
And that's where God founded the nation of Israel at. They started growing in Egypt, and then he brought them out by Moses. So he's talking about that because that was a great event in history. He said, hear this word. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt. What's the word he's saying against this people? Go ahead.
You only have I known of all the families of the earth.
That's a real big statement. But what come with that?
Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities.
See, something come with that. It's important to be known by God, but it come with some consequences, don't it?
That's right.
He said, you're the only people I have known of all the families of the earth. That's why I'm going to whoop you to death. Because I taught you better. I showed you what I wanted. When the Greeks mess up, I'm gonna blink my eye like I don't see it sometime. When the Italians mess up, the Ethiopians mess up, I might punish them a little bit. I ain't going to beat them down like I'm going to beat you because I taught you better.
That's right.
He said, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. That's a big statement. God don't deal with nobody else. That's how I know when people start talking, well, then you know Muhammad is another prophet. Muhammad is not no prophet of God. God said he only known Israel.
Yes, sir.
He said he only known Israel of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I'm going to punish you for all your iniquity. I'm going to get you. But now let's go to Psalm 105. Because Psalm 105 is going to reiterate or rehearse when God brought Israel out of Egypt. Because that's what he just said. He was speaking against the whole family that he brought up from Egypt. Psalm 105. So again, out of all the nations, we see God started making a whole lot of nations in Genesis 10. But the most significant of all of them is Israel. So it is important to know who Israel is.
Yes, sir.
And if somebody's saying they're Israel and they not, people need to know it. Because ultimately, the only way we're going to know God is through Israel. So the first thing is we don't want to let nobody tell us it don't matter who Israel is. Jesus just come to save us all. Look, he come to save us all through Israel.
That's right. That's
why he was Israel. That's why he only preached to Israel. Jesus didn't go preach to nobody else. People don't even understand that. Psalm 105 and 17. Psalm 105 and verse 17. This is when the Lord started working with Israel back in Egypt. Go ahead.
He sent a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant.
See, he sent Joseph into Egypt. The brothers got mad at Joseph and sold him. Joseph was one of the 12 sons of Israel. The other 10 or so, Benjamin was younger. He probably didn't have no hand in it. But the other ones, they got mad, jealous of Joseph because he was having dreams and telling them they was going to ultimately bow down to him. They got envious and they sold him. They was going to kill him at first. Then they decided, well, we just going to sell him. And they sold him. He ended up in slavery in Egypt. They sold him to some Ishmaelites, and the Ishmaelites, which were Arab, took him down and sold him to the Egyptians. But see, God was working something there. So this is what it's telling us. It's rehearsing that. It said he sent a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant. Because he had Joseph in place in Egypt to save them later on when there was a famine in the land. They didn't know that, though. Skip down to verse 23, because that's where it all began with this people, Israel. Go ahead.
Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham.
See, now, first of all, this took place after Joseph was down there first. And then when the famine came, Jacob turned around and went down there, sent everybody else down there, and he went down there. So Jacob's name was Israel. So it's reiterating, it's talk about one and the same when it says Israel also came into Egypt and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham. So first of all, we finding out that Egypt is in the land of Ham.
That's right.
Because when we read about the sons of Ham, we read that he had Cush, he had Mizraim, he had one named Phut and one named Canaan. And Mizraim is the original name for the Egyptians. So the point we need to pick up for sure is to know that these Egyptians, they are Hamites, which means they are black people. So he said Israel came into Egypt and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham. So he's calling Egypt the land of Ham. Go ahead.
And he increased his people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies. He turned their heart to hate his people, to deal subtly with his servants.
See, that's what happened. Israel started outpopulating them, and they started to afflict Israel and hated Israel, even started killing the babies. Started killing all the male babies because they was worried about Israel outpopulating and turning against them. So that's what it's talking about. God was working something, though. He said he turned their heart to hate his people, to deal subtly with his servants. Then what did God do? Verse 26.
He sent Moses, his servant, and Aaron, whom he had chosen.
See, then that's when he sent Moses. That set the stage for Moses to come. He sent Moses, his servant, and Aaron, whom he had chosen, which was Moses' brother. He sent them to Pharaoh, and eventually they delivered Israel. See, this is our real history. If you want to know something about your real history, you got to read the Bible.
Praise the Lord.
Because all this other stuff is lost.
Yes, sir.
But go ahead.
They showed his signs among them and wonders in the land of Ham.
Moses ended up showing all kind of miracles, signs and wonders. So that's what it said. They showed his signs among them and wonders where?
In the land of Ham.
So we talking about Ham, which had some sons and created some nations, but he created black nations. Japhet had white nations, the European. Shem had different colored nations. He had some black nations. He had some brown nations. He had different shades of nations. Because the Arabs, hey, they not straight black, but they still not straight up white either.
That's right.
And they know that too. Even the Edomites, the so-called Jews, they know. See, we don't know nothing. They know they not Gentiles.
That's right.
They know that. But see, most of us, we think that they just like all the other white people, but they totally different from the Gentiles. And they know that. I was talking to an Edomite once. He probably didn't think I knew it. I was talking to him. I was delivering some stuff to a store, and I knew he was Edomite already because he had one of them beanies on his head. He had one of them beanies on his head, and there was another white guy coming around, and he said something he was upset with. He said, them hunkies. And see, the average black person would have been like, what he talking about his own people for? But I knew that wasn't his own people.
That's right.
And I just looked at him, But we would think they all the same. But no, he was a so-called Jew, and he knew that the other person was totally different from him. So it said, verse 27, it said, they showed, talking about Moses and Aaron, they showed his signs among them and wonders in the land of Ham. Now let's go to the back of the lesson plan, to the New Compact Dictionary. Then we're going to go back to Genesis. Because this can be proven out of even history. People in history know this. See, we the only ones don't know it. So this is the first thing. We're going to read this New Compact Bible Dictionary on the left side. I just put the other one on there just for some bonus. That's a bonus for you. You can read that on your own. But it's going to say basically the same thing from the World Book Encyclopedia. But this New Compact Bible Dictionary under Ham reads like this. Go ahead and read it for me, brother.
The youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood.
Okay, so we talking about the same Ham we read about in Genesis, the 10th chapter, who had sons. He had Mizraim, Cush, Phut, and Canaan, and he had some other sons too. We didn't read all of that. But all of these were nations that came from Ham. Let's see what the Bible dictionary know about Ham. Go ahead.
He became the progenitor of the dark races.
Oh, he became the progenitor. Progenitor means he produced, or that means he's the father of. He became the father of the dark races. See, that's why when we try to look for some history ourselves, if we try to do any research, we're going to run into Ham. We're going to say, oh, we from Ham. But really, we not. Even though they black like us, we still not from them. But at least that's better. At least you get closer to saying you're a Gentile. You way off base. You think you're a Gentile. But it tells you here. See, everybody know Ham is black. That ain't no secret nowhere in the world. Ham is black and his descendants are black. That's why we associate with them, even though we're not from them. It says he became the progenitor of the dark races. But what else do it say?
But not the Negroes.
Not the Negroes. Somebody knows something here. Somebody had some understanding. They said not the Negro. They knew the Negroes came from somewhere, but now we had to come from somewhere. We didn't just drop out the sky. We know we didn't come from Japhet, the Gentiles, so the only other place is Shem. But the bottom line is they say he is the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. Who are the Negroes anyway, matter of fact? Is there a real nation called Negroes? That shows you how lost we are. We done been some of everything. But now we'll get back to that later. Not the Negroes, but who is he the father of?
But the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites.
Oh, so he is the father of the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. That's the 4 we was reading about in Genesis, the 10th chapter. Because the Egyptians is Mizraim. You can look that up. That's the original name for Egypt was Mizraim. Egypt simply means black.
That's right.
Ethiopians mean burning. The original name is Cush. People know that. But now look at these black people here. If these are black people and we want to talk, we think it's all a black thing, well, hey, you got multiple black nations right here. So it can't be all a black thing. You got Ethiopians, you got Egyptians, and we know a lot of other ones. You got Nigerians, Zimbabweans, Ghanas. So when you start talking black, you got to be specific. What black nation do you come from? Are you from Ethiopia? Just like I had a professor in college, he was saying he was going back to Timbuktu. He was trying to say we was from somewhere over there. But they just guessing at stuff because we lost, but the Lord telling you the facts in the Bible.
That's right.
But now we see clearly that Ham is the father of dark races, but not this group called the Negroes. Because this group called the Negroes, who right now we not called that no more, just in case y'all didn't know. We black now. They need to change the NAACP to the NAABP. Because well, that's colored. I forgot. I'm getting mixed up myself. I'm sorry.
Yes,
But now let's go back to Genesis 37. We have a name every few years. They need to update this Bible dictionary and put not the black people. That wouldn't make no sense, Holly, though, would it? He became the progenitor of the dark races, but not the black people. That shows you how lost we are, though.
yes, sir.
We don't have nothing that relate to a nation like everybody else. Even other black people. Genesis 37. Because we saw one thing. We saw Ham had black races. But we saw that Israel ended up in Egypt. One of his black sons ended up in Egypt. It even called Egypt the land of Ham in Psalm where we just read, right?
That's
so
right.
Israel was among these black people. And we're going to see that Israel was black just like him. But even though they weren't from Ham. But we know some other blacks came from somewhere else other than Ham because the dictionary said not the Negro. Said he didn't come from Ham. He come from another source. Because the ones who called Negroes, we know we are Israel. But now, Genesis 37, this is what we were just reading about in Psalm. It was telling us about when Joseph got sold down there. Read 37 and 28, then we'll move on. Genesis 37 and 28. Go ahead.
Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, and our flesh, and his brethren were content.
So now, you read, go ahead and read 28 now. He read 27. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then there passed by Midianites merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt.
Oh, okay. So now this is when it happened. The brothers was envious, and they sold Joseph. We just read he was sold into Egypt, right?
That's right.
And that set the stage for the rest of the nation to come to Egypt, which is also called the land of Ham, which Ham had dark races. So the Egyptians, which was one of them, they are a dark-skinned people. So they sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. That's who they sold him to, which are the Arabs. But the Arabs, the Ishmaelites, took him down into Egypt. They took him down there, and they sold him to a man down there. But now, flip over to the 42nd chapter, because that's where he was at until it hit the fan. Genesis 42. Genesis 42, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Because Joseph got sold about approximately 15 years later after he had got sold. He went to prison. He went through a lot of hard times, but then the Lord brought him out. He was running the country in Egypt. And lo and behold, just like his dreams had showed, if you read them in Genesis 37, it was a famine in the land, and all his brothers had to come down there to try to get something to eat. They end up in Egypt trying to get something to eat, and the one they sold, they looking at them. But the big secret is, the one they sold is their brother. They looking at them, they don't even recognize them. That's the big secret. That's what we need to figure something out, because we're going to put two and two together. Because we done saw that the Egyptians come from Ham, and Ham is the father of the dark races. So we know the Egyptians are black. The original Egyptians, they got artifacts of King Tut, Tutankhamun. Everybody know they black. Some Edomites try to change it now, but it's too late. The cat out the bag.
That's right.
They should have kept that stuff buried. They let it all out. They wanted to show some of that stuff out, and they let it out. Everybody know the Egyptians was black.
Praise the Lord.
Okay, but now, Joseph is in Egypt with the blacks down there, Pharaoh and all of them. And now here come the sons of Jacob down there. Verse 42 and 1. Go ahead.
Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, Why do ye look one upon another? And he said, Behold, I have heard there is corn in Egypt.
Why? Because it was a famine where he was at. He was in the land of Canaan. It was a famine, which the Canaanites were black people too. All these people black. So a lot of different black nations, though. We don't even know that. So it was a famine in the land of Canaan. So now, he said, look, I heard it's corn in Egypt. Why y'all looking at it looking stupid? Go down into Egypt. Go ahead.
Get you down thither and buy for us thence, that we may live and not die.
He said, y'all go buy something that we can live and not die, because they were starving. It was a famine. Go ahead.
And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt.
So they went down to buy corn in Egypt. Go ahead.
But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren. For he said, Lest peradventure mischief befall him.
See, he didn't send him. He was the youngest. He said, look, I ain't going to send him because something might happen. See, he thinks Joseph dead at this time. Because they lied and told Joseph they brought his garment to him and act like a beast had killed him. They said, this is all we found. This your son's garment? And Jacob crying. They put their father through all that because they was envious. But now, they didn't know that they was going to need Joseph again. They was going to run into Joseph again. Lo and behold, they on their way to Egypt. 10 of them. Go ahead, verse 5.
And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came.
So you might say, well, why is this important? Look, God said he set everything up around Israel. That's why the whole Bible is talking about Israel from Genesis to Revelation. We in Genesis, but we already read in Revelation, the gates on the New Jerusalem got the names of the 12 tribes of Israel on there, right?
That's right.
So it must be important.
Yes, sir.
So it said the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came. Go ahead.
For the famine was in the land of Canaan.
Verse 6.
And Joseph was the governor over the land.
See, they didn't expect that. Joseph running the house. Go ahead.
And he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth.
See, they came and bowed down. They said, who the boss? They said, that's the boss over there. So they come and bow down to him. They don't even know that's their brother. But the dream had said they was going to have to bow down to Joseph. Go ahead.
And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them. And he spoke roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food.
See, he didn't let them know who he was, and obviously they didn't recognize him. Some time didn't pass, they did not recognize him. But hadn't that much time passed where they wouldn't have recognized him if Joseph was white, like the people call themselves Jews, look that color like they look?
Yes, sir.
If he looked like them, they would have picked Joseph out of the crowd right away. They'd been like, because if the Egyptians we know are black, and Joseph, if he looked like the people call themselves Jews, he would have stood out like a sore thumb. Then they would have took another look at it. They said, man, one of our brothers down here. Somebody looked like us down here if they all was white. This lets you know right here, all of them was black. They didn't think no different of Joseph than any other Egyptians around. They thought he was an Egyptian ruling the land. That means Joseph had to be black like the Egyptians, like the Hamites. because Egypt come from Ham. So but Joseph recognized them right off, and he said, look, he talked to him funny. He talked to him through an interpreter and everything. He didn't even let them know he could speak what they were speaking. So even when they was talking off to themselves, Joseph understood. He listening to them. Man, dummies. But go ahead. So go ahead, verse 8.
And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him.
See, they didn't recognize him. Among all these blacks, he just looked like another black in the crowd. He just happened to be the one running it. But they bowing down. They right in front of his face. Skip down to verse 23 and let's see what I just said there. Verse 23.
And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter.
See, he didn't act like he could speak what they were speaking because he didn't want to throw himself off. Anything would have tipped his hand. So he even spoke through an interpreter. Like he didn't understand them. But he understood them all the time. But now, let's go to Exodus, the 2nd chapter, because that's clear as crystal that Joseph had to look like the Egyptians when we have established that the Egyptians come from Ham, Mizraim, and that the Hamites are dark races. That's what even the Bible dictionary wrote. But now, eventually Joseph showed his hand. He said, look, I'm Joseph, y'all brother, and don't be scared. I'm going to help y'all. And all of them ended up in Egypt, and that set the stage for Pharaoh to start oppressing them later on once Joseph died. He didn't do nothing while Joseph was living. But once Joseph and everybody died, that's when Pharaoh and the Egyptians started to oppress the Hebrews so much so they was killing all the boys. And that set the stage for the Lord to send Moses in the land of Ham. Lord sent Moses and Aaron. That set the stage for that. We're not going to read all of that, but we're going to read when Moses showed his hand in Exodus, the 2nd chapter. Because Moses was born at the time when Pharaoh had snapped off and he was worried about the Egyptians, the Israelites outpopulating the Egyptians. So he said, look, kill all the males that's born. I want you to kill all the males. So it was an all-out assault on all the Hebrew males. They was killing all the Hebrew males. So when Moses was born, his mother just put him in a basket and shipped him up the stream, and he ended up in Pharaoh's daughter's arms. And Pharaoh's daughter made him her son. But now, when she took him home, her father trying to kill all the Hebrew boys, she couldn't have told her father this was a Hebrew boy. This man was crazy enough. I'm talking about he literally killing all the Hebrew boys. You think he was that crazy? Then he going to turn around and say, okay, well, you can let that Hebrew come stay with us. You know he wouldn't have did that. So he didn't even know that the boy wasn't a Hebrew. He probably thought she adopted an Egyptian boy, but he didn't know it was a Hebrew. But when he found out, when Moses showed his hand and started trying to defend his Hebrew brothers, when he found out, this is what he did. But the point of the matter is still, Moses had to look like the Egyptians too to pass as an Egyptian in Pharaoh's own house. Pharaoh didn't even know that his own grandson was a Hebrew. He couldn't have known because he was crazy enough to trying to kill them all. But now, when he found out, this is what happened. 2 and 15. Go ahead.
Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses.
See, when he really found out, when Moses killed an Egyptian, when he trying to defend the Hebrews, when he did find out, when he heard that, he said, look, he tried to kill Moses. So you know he wouldn't have let no Hebrew come up in his house when he trying to kill him already.
That's right.
So that means the Hebrews look like the Egyptians, the Israelites, because Hebrew is another name for Israel. They look like the Egyptians. But we know it's some other dark races, it's some other black people that come from somewhere else other than Ham already. Because it said Ham is the father of the dark races, but not the Negroes. So Pharaoh sought to kill him, but what happened?
But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away.
Go ahead.
But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock.
Now here, right here, Moses was even mistaken as an Egyptian. The people, the women that saw Moses, when they went back and reported to their father who helped them, it was Moses, but they said an Egyptian. But Moses wasn't Egyptian. Moses was a Hebrew. But that means he had to look like the Egyptian, and again, the Egyptians are black. So we seeing that color-wise, Israel is black. But that's not going to be enough for us because it's a whole lot of black people. So how we going to pick out who Israel is today among all these different black people? We're going to have to look at the identification sign that the Lord put on Israel. But so far, we seeing that they black look just like the Hamites.
That's right.
Joseph passed as an Egyptian from his own brothers. Moses passed as an Egyptian among Pharaoh. So now, and right here they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the Shepherds. Now let's go to the New Testament, Acts 21. Because once the Lord made all these nations, all these different languages and tongues, colors, that didn't change. So it ain't like the Jews was black back in the day. The Israelites was black back in the day, and now they white today. See, we get all kind of dumb stuff when it comes to who Israel is. They just make up stuff, and we supposed to go for it. Oh, yeah, it used to be black Jew. What you mean used to be? If they was black then, they black now.
That's right.
If they looked like the Egyptians back then, Moses was mistaken, Joseph was mistaken, that tell me in the New Testament, Jesus could have been mistaken for Egyptian then,
That's
right?
right.
Paul could have been mistaken for Egyptian because they always going to be black. That ain't going to change. And case in point, Acts 21. Acts 21. Here's the Apostle Paul. All this time later, notice what happened. 21 and 37. Go ahead.
And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee?
Go ahead.
Who said, Canst thou speak Greek?
Uh-huh.
Art thou not that Egyptian, which before these days madest an uproar, and leddest out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers?
See, now Paul is mistaken for the Egyptian. And the Egyptians come from Ham, and Ham's descendants were black. They were black. He just wasn't the father of all the blacks, but the people he had, they were black. So now Paul is mistaken for one. He said, are not you that Egyptian which made an uproar before these days and led out so many people in the wilderness? What did Paul say? Go ahead, verse 39.
But Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarsus.
Oh, so Paul was a Jew, which came from Israel. That was one of the Jews. The word come from Judah, which is one of the 12 tribes. Paul wasn't from the tribe of Judah, but that name kind of covered everybody that was left because the other 10 tribes were in captivity. So he was actually a Benjamite, the youngest son. That's where he actually come from. But they all use the term Jew, which meant Israel. And Paul said, I'm a man which am a Jew of Tarsus. Go ahead.
A city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city. And I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people.
Okay, so Paul himself in the New Testament, he was mistaken as the Egyptian. So this is clearly letting us know that the Israelites, which later was called Jews, they had to be dark-skinned, just like the Hamites. They was among the Egyptians, among Ham. Joseph passed as one. Moses passed as one. Now here Paul. But see, that's not enough for us to know who Israel is. But this is a little piece of black history because we're talking about some black people. But we know it's a whole lot of black nationality. So how we going to know who this black people is today that's lost? Talking about Black History Month. How we going to know that we Israel? Because we're going to look at what the Lord said what happened to this black people. Let's go to Daniel, the 9th chapter. Daniel, the 9th chapter. See, we can do in a couple hours what they couldn't do in a month.
That's right.
And that is show some real history of a lost people. Daniel, the 9th chapter. And we're going to pick it up at verse 4. Now, Daniel had already been taken captive into Babylon. And that's going to be one of the tools we're going to see that happened to Israel. Because you got some people that say Israel's supposed to be doing good now. They supposed to be blessed now. Not according to the Bible. Israel's supposed to be cursed. That's how you can identify. That's the only way you can identify. They black and they cursed. And it started back here, Daniel 9 and verse 4. Go ahead.
And I prayed unto the Lord my God, and made my confession, and said, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping the covenant and mercy to them that love him, and to them that keep his commandments.
See, now Daniel is praying. He's asking for some mercy because Israel was messed up in his day. He was taken captive in Babylon, gave him a new name and everything, just like Toby. Gave him a new name. But now he was praying to God and confessing his sins. Go ahead.
We have sinned and have committed iniquity, and have done wickedly, and have rebelled, even by departing from thy precepts and from thy judgments.
See, Daniel recognized what the problem was. He said, God, I know we done sinned. We have rebelled. We have departed from all your precepts and judgments. We've done wrong. So he was admitting that first. Skip down to verse 11 and go ahead.
Yeah, all Israel have transgressed thy law.
He's continuing. Go ahead.
Even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us.
Oh, see, this is what had to happen to Israel. And Daniel knew it had happened. He knew it was in force. He said, look, Lord, we messed up. We done sinned. We have sinned. We've broken your law. Then in verse 11, he said, yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore, what did he say?
Therefore, the curse is poured upon us.
Oh, therefore, the curse is poured upon Israel. So if you want to know what Israel's status is now, you can read this and find out that, hey, God put a curse on them. Daniel is praying to God and acknowledging this. He acknowledged it. And see, and once this curse got poured out on Israel, it wasn't no reversing it into the end, into the second coming of Jesus. So we was destined to be a slave, and then what? A slave, and then what? A slave.
That's right.
Once this happened. We was destined. That's why Daniel, what was he? He was a slave in Babylon, taken from his homeland. Only thing he could do, like we do, he prayed 3 times a day toward his homeland. He wasn't going back.
Praise the Lord.
So he understood. So how are people going to get up nowadays and say, see, the Jews, they doing well. They supposed to be doing well. Now, Daniel said his people got cursed. He said, therefore, the curse is poured upon us. And what?
And the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him.
Because we have sinned against him. That's the reason why. Remember, we read earlier, though, in Amos, he said, Israel only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I'm going to do what to you? Punish you for all your iniquity. So we was destined to be punished when we disobeyed God. We weren't going to get away with that. We the only people God showed it to, and then we going to mess up. You think he going to let us off the hook? So Daniel understood. He said, therefore, the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses. Daniel knew that Moses wrote about the curse, that God made an oath on what he would do to us. Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him. Now, go ahead and read verse 12.
And he hath confirmed his words, which he spake against us.
See, God confirmed his words. He said it. He said, if you mess up, I'm going to do this to you. And he confirmed it. And he's been confirming it to this day. So it's no accident what we in. What's the situation that we in. It's no coincidence. God, Jesus said, look, all the hairs of your head are numbered. He said, 2 sparrows I sold for a farthing, yet one of them won't hit the ground without the Father knowing about it.
That's
so
right.
How can a whole people be messed up as we are? And go to church every Sunday, the wrong day, filling churches, and we still messed up. Still can't get ahead. Can't do nothing as a people. How can that be unless God done done it? That's what he said. He have confirmed his words which he spake against us. And against who?
And against our judges that judged us, bringing upon us great evil. For under the whole heaven hath not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem.
There ain't nothing this bad been done nowhere. Just like the stuff that we went through even in this country, which is only a portion of us as a whole, but still nothing been done to nobody else like been done to us. He said, for under the whole heaven have not been done as have been done upon the roof. Because that used to be our homeland. That's where we got kicked out from. But now, let's go back to Deuteronomy 28, because Daniel said the oath was written in the law of Moses. So we do good to see what the oath and the curse is. He said the curse is poured upon us and the oath that's written in the law of Moses. Let's see. Because God told us back here that if we disobeyed, what would happen? Daniel saw it in living color, and we see it in living color. Only thing is, we not wise like Daniel. We fools enough to deny or not acknowledge that God doing it. Even some people say God wouldn't do that. Daniel knew God would do it. He praying to God, said, God, you did it. You done poured that curse on us. Daniel understood. Deuteronomy 28. But he said the curse was written in the law of Moses. Let's see what it said. Let's see if we can find the curse written in the law of Moses. Then we can start to identify this people who need Black History Month. Deuteronomy 28 and pick it up at 15. Go ahead.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Okay, point blank. He had said it way back here, but Daniel knew it. So when it was happening to Daniel, Daniel understood what was happening, and he prayed to God. He acknowledged God for doing that. He said, I know you're doing that. Now I know we need to turn back to you so you can have mercy on. But see, we don't know that nowadays. All this trouble has happened to us nowadays. Not one time do you hear Black preachers stand up. We got some popular Black preachers. None of them don't stand up and say, yeah, this happened to us because God doing it to us. None of them don't say that. That won't even come out their mouth. Because we like to believe a fairy tale that God wouldn't do nothing negative or evil to nobody. But you ain't been reading the Bible at all, and you a preacher.
That's right.
So how did all this stuff happen? We just accidentally end up on the slave ship. Then we had a nerve sometimes say, see, it's the white man's fault. That's just like saying that tornado the other day is the white man's fault. Ain't nobody stupid enough to say that out. Tornado come through, kill up so many people. See, this white man did it. That's what didn't happen to us. The tornado didn't hit us. And it's directly from the Lord. Here you go right here. He said, Deuteronomy 28:15, he said, if it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. He's saying it right here. Let's take a look at some of these curses. Go ahead.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field.
You're going to be cursed everywhere. In the city, in the field. You're going to be in Mississippi in the field. You're going to try to go up north to the city and get away from it. You're going to find the same thing.
That's right.
Curse. That's what he's saying here. But skip down to verse 25, because we're going to skip a little bit. It's a long chapter, but it's all about being cursed, which people don't want to read nothing like that, but it must be in the Bible for a reason. People want to talk about being blessed. That's what I want to talk about. I want to go hear a good message today. That ain't the one you need, though.
That's right.
Jesus said the truth will set you free. Verse 25, go ahead.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies.
Oh, not the white man. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before your enemy. The Lord going to do it to you. See, how can you go to church all day Sunday and then have hell the rest of the week and not acknowledge that the same one you call yourself seeking, he doing it to you? He got all the power. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Go ahead.
Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them.
And what else?
And thou shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
See, and that's the ultimate disposition for Israel, to be taken into bondage. That's what remove means. You're going to be removed all over the world. See, we all over the place. We're not just here in America. Some brothers that preach about Israel, that's all they do is talk about America. Like this the only place we stay. They ain't been reading the Bible good either. The Lord, we all over the place. In Europe. But everywhere we at, God is the God of the whole world. He can make sure you catch hell wherever you at.
That's right.
And he do it. Go ahead, 26.
And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air.
They're going to kill you. They ain't going to have enough respect for you to bury you. They're going to let you hang on the tree so the birds can eat you. That's not pretty, is it? But this is a curse from God. That God is doing it. He said, thy carcass shall be meat unto all the fowls of the air. Only way your carcass be meat to the fowl of the air, they'll kill you, hang you on the tree, and they won't cut you down and bury you. And the birds will come eat you. That's the only way, right?
That's right.
It's a curse. Go ahead.
And unto the beast of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And no man shall fray them away.
Nobody ain't even trying to get it off. They'll see the dog biting on the bone, and they won't even scare the dog away so they can bury the person. Skip down. Well, keep reading. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch whereof thou cannot be healed.
That's all kind of diseases, which we run the gamut on that. We top the charts for diseases. You can't blame that. Sometimes people try to blame it on the white man. See, he created these diseases. Look, he can't create all of them. Sometimes you got to realize what's coming from God. Go ahead.
The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart.
And now you're going to be mad and upset and astonished at your predicament. Mad and not know what's going on. Don't even know who you are. Just mad. Sometimes you be wondering why brother standing on the corner looking mad. Well, here it go right here. He said the Lord going to smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. Go ahead.
And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness.
And you don't know how to get out of your situation. We done tried some stuff. We've been marching and riding and sitting in and sitting out and all kind of stuff. But it ain't got no better. Some people even think it got better, but it ain't got better. And we still hated by people. Every now and then somebody let it slip out, like that comedian let it slip out. See, that's his true feelings, really.
That's right.
See, eventually it's going to come out. He said, boy, we'd have had you upside down with a fork up your behind. That didn't just pop in his head at that moment.
That's right.
Obviously, that's been on his mind.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
But ultimately it comes from the Lord. But now we have to deal with that and show you how we don't get no respect. They tried to make a little issue out of it, but they made more of an issue about what Mel Gibson said than what he said. Mel Gibson didn't threaten nobody. He didn't say nothing. He said, talking about the Edomites, he said, well, it's their fault that all the wars in the world. He was drunk and stumbling. It's their fault. The Jews, the problem with the world. That's all he said. He said nothing about putting a fork up there behind, no, did he? But they made more saying about that than what this guy said.
Yes, sir.
I even saw some Gentiles on the internet say, well, they shouldn't have been heckling them. So they was even making allowances for what he said. Mm-hmm. But he showed it himself really what's in the back of his mind. But it comes from the Lord. He said, you're going to grope at noon, there's a blind grope within darkness, and what's going to happen to you? Verse 29, finish that.
And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways,
and
thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee.
See, you're not going to prosper as a people. That's why as a people we can't do nothing. We can barely get a candy store. Thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed. That means you're going to always be oppressed as a people. See, we know if you serve the Lord going to have mercy on you, and he's going to take care of you. He said, because he told us in Jeremiah, he said, I'm going to be a little sanctuary to you among those countries where you're at, because he's going to save some of us to redeem us in the end. So he can look out for you. But as a whole, as a people, we ain't going to be nothing till the Lord redeem us out of this.
That's right.
Till he get us out of this. We ain't going to be nothing. We ain't going to be able to do nothing. That's why the only way out is to acknowledge God and turn back to him, and he's going to bring us out of this. But when we not acknowledging him, not acknowledging that he's done this to us, we just making it worse. Perpetuating the problem. Verse 30.
Thou shalt betroth the wife, and another man shall lie with her.
See, this is not just the run-of-the-mill adultery. That happened to people all over the place, right? You have a wife, somebody else sneaking in and sleep with her, right? That didn't happen to some everybody. But now he ain't talking about the run-of-the-mill adultery. Remember, this is a straight-up curse from God to a whole people. That means God said, I'm going to put you in a situation, you're going to have a wife, and somebody else can come take her right in your face. Can you imagine that? That's a terrible thing for the man and the woman. I say it's probably worse for the man. Woman didn't like it, I'm sure, but the man got a wife. He talking to the man. He said, you going to have a wife and another man going to come and lie with her. Didn't they show that in Roots?
Yep.
Anytime the master felt like it, he come knock on the door. They know what time it is. Man, put his head down. Gone. Gone. That ain't nice, is it? What else?
Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
See, you're going to build a house, but it's not going to be for you. He ain't talking about a bricklayer. He's talking about that's your job as a slave, but you're not going to enjoy none of the benefits of it. You working for free, basically. Go ahead.
Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
Well, we know about that, picking cotton and all of that. But go ahead.
Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof.
They just take your ox from you. They come up and kill your ox and start cooking a meal with it, and you can't say nothing. Go ahead.
Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them.
Boy, that God really, he mad at somebody, isn't he? He putting a hurting on this people. This is how you can identify this people. They've had everything taken from them, and don't nobody even feel sorry about it. But ultimately, it comes from God. Because God said, you my chosen people, I set you up to be a holy nation, and when you messed up, I'm going to punish you. I have to punish you. Go ahead, what else?
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
See, he said, look, I'm going to let them take your sons and your daughters from you. They're going to take them from you right in your face and be given to somebody else. This went on wholesale, but it'll still happen today. Go ahead. Thine
eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long.
See, ain't nothing you don't have no control. Even in Roots, he tried to, Kunta Kinte going to be different. I'm going to call her Kizzy. You're not going to be taken away. Because it happened to everybody. Anytime they got ready, they'd split the family up. Sell the children one way, sell the husband somewhere else. He liked the wife, he might keep the wife. Sell them all. That's why Kunta Kinte, he called her Kizzy. He said, that means stay put. But when they made the master mad, what did he do? He sold her. And the only thing he said, master, don't split the family up. It's done. The woman kept begging because the master liked her. The master finally said, look, don't talk to me about that no more. It's all, she gone already. He said, your sons and your daughters shall be given unto another people, and your eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. That's a straight up curse, isn't it?
That's right.
But who do it fit? Do it fit the so-called Jews? Do they have a record of them ever going through anything like that?
No.
Go ahead, 33.
The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up.
See, we so dumb, we don't even know that we have a nation. We don't even know that somebody else eating it up. That's really dumb. But God said the fruit of your land and all your labor shall somebody else eat up. But where you at? What you doing? Go ahead.
Which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
But you oppressed and crushed. They taking everything from you. Enjoying your land. Right now, people fighting over our land. We don't even know it's our land.
That's right.
That's really bad. We don't even think we should have a land. We so dumb. At least Farrakhan and them at least used to try to say, well, why don't y'all give us a piece of land? I know they ain't going to give us nothing. But at least they had some type of concept of land. But we don't think like that as a whole. But now, let's go skip down to verse 41, because this is all in the Bible for a reason. Daniel said a curse is poured out on us, and we seeing what that curse is. This is how we can identify, because we know Israel is black, but we can't stop there because there's a lot of black people. A whole lot of black people. So how we going to know which black people among all these black people they are? They the ones who this happened to. Verse 41, go ahead.
Thou shalt begat sons and daughters. Thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
Captivity, that's the bottom line for Israel all the time. Captivity. Remember that word. If you don't remember nothing else, children in here. Remember that word, captivity. You can use slavery if you want to. That's the same thing.
Yep.
Captivity. That's where they going. Go ahead. Skip down to verse 45 and read.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee.
All these curses going to come upon thee. Isn't what Daniel said had happened? Because
Yes,
it was
sir.
happening in Daniel's day. Right now, God was just talking about it. But we saw, Daniel knew it was happening. Daniel admitted, he said, you done poured it on us, God. And you right, we messed up. He basically said, we deserve it. Now, help us to turn back so you can have mercy on us. See, that's the only hope for us as a people. You can march on Washington till your legs fall off. It ain't going to matter.
That's right.
You seeking the wrong person. What we need to do is in all these churches we got, start worshiping God like it's written in the Bible.
Yes, sir.
Have service on the seventh day like it's written in the Bible.
Praise the Lord.
Acknowledge the Lord. That's when you're going to see a change. I guarantee you. But now, what he said, verse 45, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and do what?
And shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed.
And we are destroyed as a people, but go ahead.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God,
That's the reason. Go ahead.
to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee.
See, because we wouldn't obey. We would not obey. So we can't blame the white man. It's for disobedience. God used who he chooses to use, but it's God doing it. If God don't let it happen, it won't happen.
That's right.
God don't want us to be in another land not knowing where we're from. We wouldn't be here. But now, the key to all of this is all these curses had to come on us, and once they come on you, you so messed up, this is the only way you can identify yourself, or anybody else could really know who you are, because you've been cut off from everything. When they take you into slavery, they don't let you retain all the stuff you have at home. They strip you of everything. That's why when even in Roots, when Kunta Kinte got here, they even took his name from him. They wouldn't even let him keep that. He tried to hold on to it. They said, beat it out of him. Finally, he admitted to Toby, didn't he?
That's right.
So the only way you could identify this person now is through the curse. Verse 46. Notice what he said the curse is going to be on you for.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
See, that's what the curse is for. The curse is on you for a sign. When you see the person that's messed up like this, you say, oh, that's Israel. They sinned against God. They really made God mad, boy. That's what some people even know it. Some of the Gentiles know it. They can say that when they drive through our neighborhood. Yep, they did it. They messed up. We the ones as a whole that don't have a clue. But he said it here, they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder. Because if you don't know, you're going to wonder, why me? Why this happened? Why me? Like some people saying about that tornado. Why it come down here? Why? But the Lord told you why this is, because of disobedience. But now skip down to verse 63 and go ahead.
And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught.
See, preachers don't tell you that the Lord will do this till you do this. The Lord will do it to you. It said it shall come to pass just like he rejoiced to do you good, the Lord going to be happy to mess you up. So all this stuff happening to us, hey, the Lord is smiling. He's happy about it. He's been happy about it. Even though ultimately we his people and he got to bring us back, but in the meantime, to get us back for what we done wrong, hey, the Lord said, I'm rejoicing to do that. Like people, when something bad happened, period. See, God letting bad stuff happen all over the world, but it always happened to us more. But when something bad happened, period, they always ask the question, well, where was God at? Where was God at? I told you, you can tell him laughing. He happy because he paying back. That's what it said is shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good, to multiply you. We want to acknowledge when something good happens. Oh, the Lord is wonderful, isn't he? The Lord is good. Praise the Lord. But when something bad happened, oh, the devil did that. Same Lord did it.
That's right.
It said, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught, which means nothing. And that's where we at right now. And what else?
And ye shall be plucked from the land whether thou goest to possess it.
See, you're going to be plucked means you're not going to walk off on your own. Somebody going to come get you. 64.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other.
So we're not just here in America. Go ahead.
And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thy nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
See, we serving false gods everywhere we at, and that's not making it no better. Go ahead.
And among these nations shalt thou find no ease. Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest.
Go ahead.
But the Lord shall give thee a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind.
You ain't going to have no rest. You're going to always have to be worried. Other people can take a little leisure, not you. You're going to have to be worried. Go ahead.
And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night.
He said you're going to be most likely to be killed. Look at the statistics. But go ahead.
And shalt have none assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, would to God it were even. And at even thou shalt say, would to God it were morning.
So something bad to happen, something bad is liable to happen any time. Go ahead.
For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see.
But now what's the bottom line? Where does it always end in? That word captivity or slavery. Go ahead.
And the Lord shall bring again thee into Egypt again with ships.
Now you going this time. Egypt is the house of bondage, because that's where he brought them out from. Egypt, the house of bondage. He tell you that over and over. Exodus 20, verse 1 and 2, he said, I brought you out of Egypt, the house of bondage. He repeat that. So when he said the Lord shall bring me into Egypt again with ships, he's actually saying you're going back to slavery with ships. And we're going to see that. Go ahead.
By the way whereof I spoke unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
But how do I know it's slavery? He's going to tell you right here. This is how I know it's slavery. Go ahead.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
See, you're going to be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you, meaning you're going to be there. Nobody ain't going to come later on and say, yo, you sold my people over there. I want to buy them back. I want them to come back home. Nobody ain't asking us to come back nowhere out.
Nope.
We've been here. Matter of fact, we've been here so long, a lot of us think this is home. But if you look at even the recent history, we know we've been sold. There ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. You're not going to get bought back, but you being sold into slavery. But now let's go to Joel, the 3rd chapter. Even on ships. Joel, the 3rd chapter. See, the Lord didn't have all this in the Bible just to be here for us not to read and not to know. But he got it in the Bible so when it's time for us to wake up, we can read it and we can say, oh, that's me. Like Daniel, he understood from reading Moses writing that when he went into captivity, that it was the curse was being poured out on him. But we don't understand that. We just act like it's just happenstance. It just happened by chance. We don't understand. We should say, look, now that we realize we were supposed to be sold and it's written in the Bible, all us should realize that, hey, we are this people right here. And God is punishing us for disobedience. Joel 3:1. Go ahead.
For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land.
Now he's actually talking about when he bring Israel back home from captivity, which is what Jesus is going to do. That's the top of Jesus' agenda at his second coming. When he bring us back from captivity, to do that, he's going to have to humble the whole world. So he said, I'm going to gather all nations, at verse 2, and bring them down to this certain valley of Jehoshaphat. And he said, I'm going to plead with them there for my people, because this is not going to last forever. Thank God that it's not going to last forever. We couldn't take much more of this. We've been killed ourselves before too long. So he said he going to plead with them there for his people and for his heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Well, God scattered us, but he did scatter us through people. He let people do it. He didn't come down and actually scatter nobody, did he?
No.
He let people do it. And he is punishing us. But now eventually the punishment going to be over and he going to regather us. But the only problem is the nations ain't going to want him to do that. Because once you have some slaves, you like having slaves. That's why they fought a whole civil war not to let slavery go the way it used to be. So now it's a new type of slavery, but it's still slavery. But they fought a war to try to keep that going, didn't they?
That's right.
And you still got a lot of people around here who wish it was the other way. Like the dude talked about 50 years ago, the way it would have been. So just shut up. So a lot of people, that's why some of them don't even want to let go of that Confederate flag. But that's our symbol. They still got some hope of the good old days. See, we think things have changed a whole lot, too. Like I said, that's an example that things haven't changed a whole lot. And it's a whole lot of people that really think that Israel, this black people, is inferior to other people, to everybody else. But if they understood the Bible, they'd know, no, this is happening to us because we sin and God is cursing us. We are messed up, but it's because God is doing it. He's allowing it to happen. But now he's going to rectify it. But what have they done to us in the meantime? Verse 3.
And they have cast lots for my people.
He said, look, they cast lots for my people. They really treated my people real bad. They cast lots for my people. God said, I wanted you to treat them bad. Y'all really took it to the extreme. They cast lots for my people. That means they had you on the auction block. They degraded you, mistreated you. Go ahead.
And have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink.
He said you wasn't straight, you was just straight up just another piece of property. Go ahead, verse 4.
Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head.
See, the thing with us being messed up as a people and not knowing who we are, a whole lot of nations had a hand in it. It wasn't just one group of people. You can't even just say the white man, because some black men did it too. Some people black like us helped us be in this situation. A whole lot of nations helped us in this. That's why he's talking to some of the nations here. He said, in verse 4, yea, and what have ye to do with me, Tyre and Zidon? These are Canaanite nations. These are black nations, Hamite nations. And he's going to tell you what they did, because we talk about the white man this, the white man this. Look, the white man bought us, but somebody had to sell us.
That's right.
And that's what he's talking about here. What did he say Tyre and Zidon did? Verse 5.
Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly and pleasant things.
And what else did they do to us?
The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians.
See, go ahead.
That ye might remove them far from their border.
See, that's what had to happen to Israel. The children of Judah, which is one of the names of Israel, one of the sons, and the children of Jerusalem had ye sold. Didn't we just read you was going to be sold for bondmen and bondwomen?
Yes, sir.
Here we reading again. The Lord want to drive the point home what was going to happen to his people. When had the so-called Jews been sold to anybody?
Never.
You can't read it nowhere. So we know, hey, we already know Israel look dark-skinned, is a black people. But not only that, there's a dark-skinned people who've been cursed and been sold into bondage all over the place. This is in the Bible. So as far-fetched as it may sound, hey, it only fits one way. And if it don't fit, you know what to do. You mustn't quit.
That's right.
So they don't fit.
That's right.
He said, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians that ye might remove them far from their border. How we get here? We got sold here, didn't we?
Yes, sir.
And we're a long way from the border. We so far away from the border, the average person, it ain't even in their mind that they got a border. We so far away. But we've been sold. But not just sold. Some people say, well, you had a lot of indentured service. We ain't talking about no indentured service. We talking about the bottom of the line slave, degraded, the worst condition ever. So let's back up and see. He gives you an example of that at verse 3. He kind of try to set the stage for you. Let you picture it in your mind how this slave is being treated. Verse 3. And Lord don't like it ultimately. Go ahead.
And they have cast lots for my people.
That means they really just treated you bad. They just bid it for you. Put you on the auction blocks. Felt on the woman's breast. Felt the man around to see how strong he was. Just really mistreated him. Go ahead.
And have given a boy for an harlot.
And given a boy for an harlot. That means they didn't think nothing. You wasn't nothing but a real piece of meat. Giving a boy for an harlot. Here, take this boy so I can have that prostitute. Go ahead.
And sold a girl for wine that they might drink.
So that shows you the condition. But now let's go flip over to the other history that we got here. This is from the economics.com, World International. So this is an international news organization. Don't have nothing to do. It ain't nothing Jimmy and them did. This is a news organization who's telling us about slavery. Not just, see, we used to hearing about how the conditions here. But again, Lord put Israel all over the world. So it said, breaking the chains. This was from February 2nd, 2007. Cape Coast, Ghana. From the Economics print edition. Britain abolished the slave trade 200 years ago this week. Its landmarks are an abiding legacy of cruelty. So they said, look, even though they abolished it 200 years ago, some of the landmarks are still there from slavery days. They say it's just an abiding legacy of cruelty. It shows you how bad it was. Terrible stuff. And they got a picture here where this guy's going down in the dungeon. And it started talking about that. Go ahead and pick it up, the dungeons.
The dungeons can still shock 2 centuries after their last inmates were freed.
See, they still got them over there. And they said the dungeons can still shock even 200 years later. It's still real bad. Go ahead.
Damp and fetid in the tropical air, immersed in virtual darkness. This is where the slaves were kept, often for months at a time. Before being led down a tunnel through the door of no return to ships riding in the surf, ready to begin their appalling voyage over the ocean.
Okay, see, we got to remember that slavery didn't just start here when we got here. Hey, somebody else, like he just told you, somebody else had to catch you and sell you. So it started in what we talk about wanting to go back to Africa, where they the ones sold you off of there. They got rid of you. Because we don't know that we're not the same as all other black people, but they knew. That's why they sold us. That's why the Lord was talking about Tyree and Zidon. Somebody had to catch us and sell us to somebody. The Gentiles didn't know nothing about the land at that time. They wasn't coming over there catching nobody. Gentiles was coming over there with some whiskey and stuff and selling and getting some people. That's what he's going to tell you here. He said, damp and fetid in the tropical area, immersed in virtual darkness. This is where the slaves were kept often for months at a time before being led down a tunnel through the door of no return to ships riding in the surf, ready to begin their appalling voyage over the ocean. Didn't he say you're gonna go back into Egypt on ships? And he said you're going to be sold as bondmen and bondwomen, male and female. Go ahead.
Just one of the countless inmates left a written record, having been sold to white traders for a gun, a piece of cloth, and some lead.
Oh, just for a gun. That sounds just like what we just read, didn't it? It said a harlot. He said he had given a boy for an harlot and sold a girl for wine. Well, that ain't much more. He got a gun. He said just being sold for a gun and a piece of cloth and some lead. That sounds just like reading what we just read in the Bible. Go ahead.
Huabna Atabad.
I guess that was his name. I guess that was the guy's name. Go ahead.
Recall waiting in the dungeon till his time arrived to conduct us away to the ship. It was a most horrible scene. There was nothing to be heard but rattling of chains, smacking of whips, and groans and cries of our fellow men. Some would not steer from the ground when they were lashed or beaten in most horrible manners.
Mm-hmm.
When the dungeons were excavated in the late 19th century, a mass cake of excrement was removed together with the bones of birds and animals on which the slaves presumably fed
That
on.
was pretty rough, wasn't it? He said when they excavated them, they found a mass of caked excrement. You know what excrement is, don't you? Doo-doo. Mess. Because they just left them down there. And they didn't have diapers on. A mass cake of excrement was removed together with the bones of birds and animals on which the slaves presumably fed. So this was some horrible stuff, but it's all written. We just read about it in the Bible. So we read an example of what the Lord said would happen. See, this is another way you know God is God. He gonna tell you something before it happened, and when it happened, you know that, hey, only God could have did that. And he has done it to us for disobedience. That's what we got to realize. Once we realize that, we know we got to do what we're trying to do here, keep his commandments so he can have some favor on us, because that's the only way out. Seeking somebody else ain't going to help. But now, let's go back to the scripture. Let's go to Luke 21. Because a lot of people say, yeah, see, that was way back then. That's that Old Testament again, brother. That's what some people call it. They call us Old Testament. But we read the whole Bible. We're going to see if Jesus care about this situation or know about it or feel like talking about it. Jesus wouldn't talk about it if it didn't matter, would he? Let's see if he said anything about it. See, this is our history right here. It shows us where we come from. We come from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we messed up and we've been turned into nothing, just like God said. 21 and 20. Luke 21 and verse 20. Luke 21 and 20. Go ahead.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
He said, look, this is years later from Joel. Now here Jesus said, look, you know what's going to happen in a little while? It hadn't happened yet this time, what he's talking about here. He said, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, you know it's about to get destroyed. So in other words, he said, look, this nation going to fall. Because we had a few people left that hadn't went into slavery with Daniel and them. Some of them came back. Jesus letting them know, y'all going too. Everybody got to go. And we've been gone ever since what Jesus said when it came to pass. Go ahead.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let none of them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
Go ahead.
But woe unto them that are with child, and unto them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people.
Wrath upon Israel. That's the people he's talking about. His own people. That's why when he was making this statement, he was crying. He said, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you kill a prophet. I send people to you to straighten you out. You don't want to listen. Just like now, we read the Bible, people don't want to listen to this. They want to see the preacher up doing a dance and wiping sweat and having a good time. They want to hear the choir sing all day long, which some of them do, but we don't want to get no knowledge of what God is saying. Go ahead.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
He said, look, they're going to fall by the edge of the sword. That's what's going to happen to Israel. Go ahead.
And shall be led away captive into all nations.
Oh, there you go again. Led away captive into all. Here Jesus is talking about our slavery, isn't he?
That's right.
This is our slavery. Shall be led away captive into all nations. So when we end up in America, how many different nationalities been led away captive to America? Only one, right?
That's
that
right.
we know of, right?
Yes, sir.
Even the Indians who was here already, they wasn't led captive here, were they?
Nope.
So they got a little mistreatment, but they ain't got no mistreatment like us have. He said, you shall be led away captive into all nations. See, just like that article we read, that was just one of 5 pages. If you want to get the whole 5 pages of that article, you can get it. Brother got it at the back. But it told you how they even went on the circuit trading slaves. They was making all kind of money. And it let you know the whole world was getting rich off of this. It wasn't just America. The whole world was getting rich off of this. That's what basically the whole world economy was founded on. getting rich off of slaves, trading slaves. So now, but Jesus called it here. He said they shall be led away captive into all nations. That's a whole lot, but go ahead.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
Now the Gentiles, which are the Europeans, they trodden down our homeland. And whoever they give it to, they run the world over. And it's going to be that way till the end. But now let's go back to Deuteronomy 28, because when you got led away captive, you wasn't on no pleasure cruise ship. He let you know the type of ship. We done seen what type of ship we was on. And not only that, what you think happened when you got to the place? They sold you, and what became of who you was. Because we got to realize why we don't know who we are nowadays. Why we've been called colored, Negro, Afro-American, black. We got to realize that. Like I said, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, they need to change their name now. We're not even called colored people no more. They got to keep up with the time. Should be the NAABP, right?
That's right.
But they better hurry up and change it, because it'll be the AP in a minute. National Advancement for Association of African American People. It keeps changing. Just like the dictionary we read said not the Negro. We're not even called Negroes no more. But why is that? Why we keep switching and why we don't have a clue? Let's read it. Deuteronomy 28. We skipped this early on purpose. Verse 37. Read that one verse.
And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
See, that's the reason why. Jesus just said you're going to be led away captive into all nations. Now, we're going to look at the predicament in all nations. Obviously, it wasn't going to be nice. Obviously, you was going to be oppressed. You're going to be sold and you're going to be oppressed. But now, not only that, what become of who you are? That's what we're trying to get to. Why you got to have a whole month to figure nothing out? You don't even figure out what country you from in a whole month. Why is that? Because he said here, when you go into these nations on ships in captivity, thou shalt become an astonishment. That means your predicament going to be amazing. You didn't even, some people say, I didn't know people can live so horribly. You're going to be an astonishment, a proverb. That means they can talk, when they ain't got nothing else to do, they can sit around and talk about you. A proverb. That means they got all kind of saying. That's what came out of his mouth. The comedian. He let it slip. He wasn't planning to do it. They pushed him over the edge. So his true colors came out, and he said it. He said, hey, boy, what you even doing talking? You a nigga. 50 years ago, we'd have had you out back with a fork up your behind.
That's right.
He still got that on his mind. Why? Because that's what we done been. Thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword. We just talked about the bywords, nicknames, Negro, colored, Afro-American, black, and they got a whole lot of negative ones. We can go on and on. We can go on and on. But that's what he said. Among what? Among all the nations where the Lord shall lead you. Go ahead, skip over to Deuteronomy 32 and read one verse. Deuteronomy 32. See, we should understand why it is the way it is. This is why we don't know no true history. We ain't been getting it from the right source. 32 and verse 26. Go ahead.
I said, I would scatter them into corners.
There you go, getting scattered. But the thing about it is, he's scattering you. He's not wiping you off the map. You still here. You scattered in the corners, that means you few, you minority. You scattered in the corners, go ahead.
I will make the remembrance of them to cease from among men.
See, that's why we don't even remember who we are. Don't nobody even talk about where we from. Original land. The best we can say is Africa, and Africa is a big country. Ain't that a shame? Only thing you can say is you from Africa. That's a real big continent. The Greek can say he's from Europe, but he can say he's from Greece. The Italian can say he's from Italy. Chinese from China, so forth and so on. we can't say it, but the Lord said, I will make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. And who we are has ceased. We don't have a clue who we were. But now let's go to Psalm 83, because let's see how he did that. God didn't come down and give everybody amnesia, did he? He didn't come down and give everybody amnesia. How did that take place? That took place through the process that we was reading about, through captivity, through slavery. They stripped you and took you away and didn't let you recall. Didn't tell you, continue to feed you with who you was. They took everything from you. So now once the one that went into captivity, once they died off, then nobody would know. Psalm 83 and 1. Psalm 83 and verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God.
Mm-hmm.
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up thy head.
Uh-huh.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
What have they done? Go ahead.
And consulted against thy hidden ones.
And we are hidden. We hidden from our own self. We don't even know who we are. Go ahead.
They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation.
See, that's what didn't happen. See, the Lord let the nations pile up on us. That had to happen for us not to be who we originally were. People had to get together and do that. Like I said, even the Gentiles, they're not the only one that did something wrong. Other Hamites sold us into this predicament. That's the only way we got here. And everywhere else we had, somebody had to sell us. So it's been a worldwide conspiracy. That's the only way it could have been pulled off. So some people knew what was going on. Mm-hmm. We just didn't know. He said it here. He said, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. Are we a nation now? Negro is not a nation.
Nope.
Color not a nation. Black not a nation. We don't even have a clue. And we got to come from one of Ham's sons from some land, don't we? We had to have an original tongue. We don't have a clue, do we? But we know now because God said this would happen to Israel. Because remember, it couldn't happen without God. God not only allowed it to happen, he wanted it to happen for our disobedience. But they said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Go ahead, verse 5.
For they have consulted together with one consent.
Uh-huh.
They are confederate against thee.
See, they confederate. It's a confederacy, a conspiracy. And they have done it with one consent. It's like some people somewhere know. They done dug up bones. They know. But nobody is talking about it. Go ahead, verse 6.
The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes.
Okay, the first people he mentioned, Edom, that's the so-called Jew, which he's Semitic. The Ishmaelites, they Semitic. The Moabites, they Semitic. All these, even people closely associated with us, hey, they had a hand in it. Now you got two of our brothers fighting over the promised land, and both of them know it's not either one of theirs. Why would they both fight so hard? If one of them had a legitimate claim, it seemed like the other would say, okay, well, really, it is yours. They know they ain't the real Jews. The Arabs know better than that. Why do you think they fighting them? Say, it's just as much ours as it is yours. So he named them the tabernacles of Edom, that's the so-called Jew, the Ishmaelites, Moab, the Hagarenes, because the land is split up among a bunch of people. Even Jordan, that's part of the land of Israel. Ammon, Jordan, which is the capital, that's part of the land. But now let's go further. Let's go to Isaiah 42. Because when they did that, cut us off from being a people, God is telling us he would cause the remembrance of us to cease from among men. But now we're in this predicament that we don't even have a clue. We act like nothing has happened. We might talk about being oppressed sometime, but we blame that on somebody else. We never say, well, look, God did it to us for our sins. You ain't never heard none of our leaders say that. They try to blame something else. Either you're not trying hard enough. That's what a lot of Gentiles like to say. You're supposed to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You're not trying hard enough. Or Some of our leaders might say, well, they just holding us back. But look, what about God? God is the one ultimately got to be doing it. Ain't nobody do nothing without him. Isaiah 42, but we don't see that. All this stuff happened to us, and not one time do we realize where it's ultimately coming from. And we got more church than anybody. You mean you can't learn that in church? Mm-hmm. That God, that's a simple lesson. God run the world. That's all you got to know. So we couldn't be messed up like this without him.
That's right.
Notice what he called us. And we are the people who he chose in the beginning. You know, that's really a shame. We knew him and supposed to know better, and we don't know nothing. Don't even know who we are. That's bad. Used to be a genius. But now, Isaiah 42, verse 18. Go ahead.
Hear, ye deaf, and look, ye blind, that ye may see.
See, he talking to us. He said, boy, this people is deaf and blind. This is my people. Go ahead.
Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as the Lord's servant?
Nobody. We the most blind people on the planet. Because God didn't set us on fire. We don't even know. You walk around on fire, don't even know. Even other people be coming up trying to put the fire out. Come on, out. Like, I'm okay. What's wrong? Shoes on fire. People shooting water holes at you. Why you put that water on me? I'm trying to put you out. You on fire. Go ahead.
Seeing many things, but thou observest not. Opening the ears, but he heareth not.
Go ahead.
The Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He hath magnified the law and made it honorable.
See, the Lord going to straighten it out. But what about us as a people? What about us? The ones that need Black History Month. Go ahead.
But this is a people robbed and spoiled.
See, we robbed. He said, this people is robbed and spoiled. They didn't had everything taken from them. Don't even know who they are. They had your identity stolen. That's really some identity theft, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
That's the real identity theft. That's the theft of the century. We've been robbed and spoiled. Go ahead. Let's see where we at.
They are all of them snared and hold. And they are all hid in prison houses.
Now, we know that we the majority in prison. We the majority messed up. We the majority in prison. We the minority in the country, but we the majority in prison. Go to prison more than anybody. How can that be? But the Lord said it. He said they are hid in prison houses. What else is our condition?
They are for a prey, and none deliver it.
We're going to get taken advantage of. And nobody is going to deliver. Nobody is going to be there to take up. Go ahead.
For a spoil, and none saith restore.
They take everything for you, and don't nobody say, well, we really shouldn't have did. Not even years later. They tried to get Clinton to at least apologize for slavery. Clinton wanted to. They said, and then they got people talking about reparations. Some of our leaders and even some Gentiles say, yeah, well, they deserve to get some for all they've been through. But it ain't going to happen because the Lord said nobody going to restore nothing to us. Nobody don't even feel like they owe. Even if you start talking about slavery too loud, they say, that was back then. Got nothing to do with us. How we going to get them something now anyway? All the people that was enslaved dead. But we still suffering from that to this day.
That's right.
But that just shows they ain't going to do it. He said, therefore a prayer none delivered, for a spoil and none said restore. That means give it back. We misused them. Let's pay them something back. Like we did, at least they give the Indians reservations. They give other people tax breaks for different things, but they won't do nothing for Israel because God won't let them. God wants us to acknowledge him through this. This is why he asked this question. Verse 23.
Who among you will give ear to this? And who will hearken and hear for the time to come?
God said, who's going to listen to what I'm doing? I'm the one doing this. I'm the boss. Go ahead.
Who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers?
Now that's key. That let us know where Jacob or Israel, which his name became, is. He is not living good. He is not supposed to be in control of the sea gates like this Armstrong people try to say now, that this is because that is Britain and America somehow is the throne of Ephraim and Manasseh. Don't have nothing to do with that. Israel has been cursed. This has happened. It happened in Daniel time, so it ain't something waiting to happen. I know they say, well, see, America about to go into slavery. America ain't about to go into slavery. We the slaves in America. Slaves already here.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, who did it? Who among you will give ear to this? Who will hearken to hear from the time to come? Verse 24, who gave Jacob for a spoil? Who did this to it? Israel to the rock. I know he's going to say the white man, ain't he? Let's see.
Did not the Lord?
Oh, did not the Lord do it? The Lord did this to it. We can't blame nobody. Go ahead.
He against whom we have sinned.
Because we read that in Deuteronomy 28.
Yes, sir.
For our disobedience. Go ahead.
For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his law.
That's the reason why. So the Lord put it on us, didn't he?
That's right.
What did he do to us? 25.
Therefore hath he poured upon him the fury of his anger,
The Lord was angry and he put it on us. Go ahead.
and the strength of battle,
Uh-huh.
and it hath set him on fire round about.
Now we on fire, like I said at the beginning. But what we think about being on fire? Are we trying to put it out? Go ahead.
Yet he knew not.
We ain't even paying. How can you be on fire? No, that's an amazing feat, isn't it? That shows you we so messed up and we don't even take heart to it. We don't even know it. We don't even say the Lord did it. Let's get it together and start keeping his Sabbath and his holy days and keep his commandments. The Lord did it to us. We say the white man. It says set him on fire round about. He don't even know it. And what else?
And it burned
It's
him.
burning him. You getting burnt. And what you think about it?
Yet he laid it not to heart.
But you're not laying it to heart. That's really bad, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
But this is important to God. Let's go to Revelation 2. People say, well, see, Jesus don't care about no Israel. We show you he showed that Israel was going into captivity into all nations. But your question should be where if we really Israel, if Israel is black and in captivity, which we read thoroughly. This is our history. If that's the case, then who the people over there that say they Jews and how they get there? They got there when we went into captivity. And the Lord know about them, and he told us about them.
That's
Revelation 2 and verse 9. See, this ain't got nothing to do with nobody except what the Lord said in the Bible. We ain't mad at nobody because we know the Lord is in control. But we're going to tell it like it is. Revelation 2, because people say, well, see, they we ain't anti nobody. We pro-Bible.
That's right.
So somebody say, well, see, they anti-Semitic. They talking about the Jews. Look, they not the Jews, so I can't be anti them.
That's right.
Notice. Then if they say, well, see, you said they ain't the Jews. No, we're going to read Revelation 2:9. Go ahead.
I know thy works, and tribulation, and poverty.
Now we see that's the way Israel is, isn't it?
That's
Been
right.
in tribulation and poverty, spoiled and robbed, hid in prison houses, on fire, don't know it, messed up as a people, right? Jesus talking about, he said, I know you messed up. I know your work. I know your tribulation and your poverty, but what?
But thou art rich.
Because we still his people. He's still going to bring us back in the end, and that's going to be amazing. And all the other nations going to have to come to us to get the word. Some of them going to rather die first, and guess what? They're going to die.
That's right.
Because some of them that been food, they think they really better than us. It's just that God did it to us. He said, I know your works, your tribulation, your poverty, but you rich, really. Just hold on. Go ahead. What else do he know?
And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan.
See, he's talking to both of us, isn't he?
That's right.
Talking about both of us. He's talking about the real Jews, and he's talking about the ones who faking. This is Jesus talking. Don't let nobody tell you Jesus don't care about this, what we dealing with. He said, I know your works, I know your tribulation and poverty, but you rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but they the synagogue of Satan. Jesus is talking like that. Let's go to Revelation 3 now. Because if somebody's saying they Jews now, and we know the real Jews in captivity, a proverb and a byword, then we have to have this. Revelation 3:9. Let's see what he's going to do in the end. Because he's going to make it, he's going to straighten it out in the end. 3 and 9. Go ahead.
Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not.
He said it again, but this time he's going to tell you what he's going to do in the end to them. What he's going to make them do. Go ahead.
But do lie.
They lying, he said. So don't let nobody say that somebody here is anti-Semitic or against somebody. Look, we just reading the Bible. And it got to pan out because God can't lie. He said, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan which say they are Jews that are not, but do lie. What I'm going to do?
Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee.
Oh, they going to worship before somebody else's feet, aren't they? Whose feet they going to worship to? The real Jews, the ones that's in poverty, in captivity. That's been scattered all over the world. But for them to worship before thy feet, we got to come back from slavery. We got to come back to our senses, don't we?
That's right.
We got to realize who we are. That's what's happening now. Let's go to Isaiah 14. Because we saw that's what we ended up on, ships spread out. We saw from history. We know that that only happened to one group of people. Even though we all over the world, it only happened to one group of people. So Isaiah 14. So now they going to bow down. The ones say they Jews going to bow down to the real Jews in the end. God going to make it that way. See, this not only the true black of Israel history, this the true black of Israel future too.
That's right.
This is what's going to happen in a short while from now. Notice what he said here, Isaiah 14:1. Go ahead.
For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel.
See, in the end, the Lord going to have mercy on us because we are the people he chose. He had to send us through that for disobedience. But in the end, he's going to bring us back. So that's why he make this statement. The Lord will have mercy on Jacob and yet choose Israel. Go ahead.
And set them in their own land.
Oh, we got a land, but we're not sitting in it now, right?
That's right.
Because we're in slavery. But the Lord said, I'm going to set them in their own now. In other words, I'm bringing them back from slavery. It would be a shame if we never realized we had a home and went there. We just stayed lost to who we really are. That would be a shame. But thank God, he said, I'm going to set them in their own land, and what's going to happen?
And the stranger shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob.
They're going to cleave to the house of Jacob. Go ahead.
And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and for handmaids.
Okay, the Israel going to have some servants and handmaidens this time. Go ahead.
And they shall take them captives whose captives they were.
Oh, we was the captives, but he said they're going to take them captives whose captives they were. It's going to be a role reversal, isn't it? Go ahead.
And they shall rule over their oppressors.
See, this is what's going to happen. This is when he said, I'm going to make them bow before your feet and know that I have loved you. He got to bring you back from slavery for that to happen, though. Verse 3.
And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from thy hard bondage, wherein thou was made to serve.
See, that's going to happen when he give us rest from that sorrow. But now, go to Deuteronomy 30. Deuteronomy 30. Because this was told all the way back here when the curse was first mentioned, what the Lord was going to do in the end. So if you're going to deal with some true history, you got to come up with a land that belonged to you and at least mention that once in a while. 30:1. But we can't because we're under curse and we won't acknowledge that it's coming from God, right out of the Bible. 30:1. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither the Lord thy God have driven thee.
See, you've been under the blessing for a minute, then you was under the curse, and we under the curse still to this day. But we supposed to call it to mind at the end. That's what we doing now. We waking up and say, oh, that's why we in this predicament. It's not just because I'm less than somebody or I'm a Negro or color. It's because we sinned against God. God did it to us. So we call it to mind. Where we at among the nations? Well, God has driven us. What is our goal? What do we need to do once we call it to mind? Go ahead.
And shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thine soul.
See, that's what we need to do. Not march on Washington. Return and obey the voice of the Lord, because that's what got us in trouble, breaking his commandments. And once we start to do that and the Lord see that, what is he going to do? Verse 3.
That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity.
Oh, he's going to get you out of captivity. He's going to turn it. You're going to be in captivity. He going to turn your captivity and have what?
And have compassion upon thee.
Uh-huh.
And will return and gather thee from all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath scattered
See,
thee.
he's bringing you back now from that captivity. But he got to, if you're going to take them captives whose captives you were. He got to, if he going to make them to say they are Jews but are not, bow down and know that he loved you. He got to do that. But people that said Jesus don't have nothing to do with Israel, Jesus is the one doing this. Notice what he said, verse 4.
If any of thine be driven out unto the uttermost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee.
He said, I don't care where you at. If any of yours are scattered out, I'm going to bring you back. This is one of the most important messages in the Bible, and yet don't nobody talk about it. Like I said, I was talking to some brothers, and they didn't even know they Israel, and they trying to preach something. You can't even preach. You don't even know who you are. You don't even know who Israel is, that you Israel, and you trying to preach. Because if you don't understand Israel, you're going to be missing a whole lot of other things in the scripture.
That's right. Nothing
going to fit in place in a lot of places. You're going to be mixed up. This is all the scripture we done read, we could have read twice as much about this. So obviously it's an important part of the Bible. Now, here we go again. He said, I don't care where you at, if you be driven out to the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord gather thee, and from thence when he fetch you. He said, I sent you out, I'm going to bring you back. Verse 5. Where you going? Up to heaven? Go ahead.
And the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and which thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers.
See, bringing you into that land that your fathers possessed. But now let's go to Matthew 24. And let's see who that Lord is doing that. Because people have tried to disassociate Jesus from Israel. And Jesus said he was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel.
That's right.
So he got to deal with Israel first. He'll get to the other nations. He loved people from all nations, but he loved Israel first. He just told you in Revelation. He said, I'm going to make them bow before your feet to know that I have loved you. Matthew 24 and 31. This is after it get hot and heavy in this world, but this is how it's going to end. 24 and 29. Go ahead.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven.
Immediately after tribulation. That's going to be great tribulation. The sky going to roll back. Here comes the Lord on his way. He coming down to take over the world, not rapture nobody to heaven. Take over the world, but in the same process is to regather his chosen people who've been scattered all over the world. He going to quote for us basically Deuteronomy 30, which we just read. Notice what, this is Jesus talking. What he going to do?
And the powers of heaven shall be shaken.
Verse 30.
And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven.
Here he come. Go ahead.
And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory.
Here he come with power and great glory. But what is he coming to do? Go ahead.
And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
See, that's what he just said in Deuteronomy. He said, if you be scattered out from the end of heaven, talking about the earth, from thence will the Lord gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. Well, he said the same thing, because the elect is Israel. Other people are going to become elect with Israel, but the elect is Israel. Isaiah showed you that. He said they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. What's the four winds? Let's back up to Isaiah, the 11th chapter, and make sure. And this is the last scripture. Isaiah, the 11th chapter. And then in the process, we'll know for sure who the elect is. And it's nobody but this lost black people whose true history is in the Bible, because we are Israel. 11 and 12. Isaiah 11 and verse 12. Jesus said the four winds, he going to gather together his elect. Let's see what Isaiah said, if he said it similar. Go ahead.
And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
See, that's what the four winds is. the four corners, all over, east, west, north, and south. He's going to gather you from wherever you at. He said, assemble the outcasts of Israel. So Israel been cast out. Judah been dispersed. Like the so-called Jews, they talk about the diaspora, and they talk about the diaspora is over. That means dispersed. They say the diaspora is over. We back home. That's a lie. Because when Israel go back home, it's going to be peace. The diaspora is not over. It ain't even started to be over yet.
That's right.
And when it's over, it's going to be on a major scale. It ain't going to be no war fought by the United Nations with some people with a few weapons. It's going to be the Lord himself knocking off the world. That's when the diaspora will be over.
Praise the Lord.
He said here, he shall set his hand up again. He shall set up an ensign for the nation and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. But back up to verse 1 and let's see who this is doing this. Verse 1, go ahead.
And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots.
See, this rod is Jesus that came out of Jesse. And this branch. Skip down to verse 4. Let's just see what he's going to do when his time comes to come back. Go ahead.
But with righteousness shall he judge the poor and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth.
It's all about the earth. Go ahead.
And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked.
So he's going to have to take down the whole world. With the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. Skip down to verse 9, and let's see, because he talk about how all the beasts going to get along together. The wolf and the lamb, none of them going to be fighting. The lion not going to eat meat no more. He's not going to be killing animals. He's going to eat straw. Then he tell you, sum it up for you, verse 9.
They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea.
See, that's going to be a good day. And we on our way. We're not there yet. We on our way, though, but go ahead.
And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people, and to it shall the Gentiles seek.
See, the Gentiles going to come to it, but the only way the Gentiles can come, they got to acknowledge who the real Israel is. They got to acknowledge they got to believe the same thing that Israel believes. And we know, we're not guessing, we know we Israel. We know it's this way and there's no other way. There ain't even doubting at all. Even though it's far-fetched to an average person who never heard nothing like this, but it's clear as day to me because we can read it all over the Bible. Your Bible, we can take it and beat you upside the head with it with Israel.
That's right.
And then people say Israel don't matter no more. That's what the average person go to Sunday church think. Israel. You start talking about Israel, they look at you like you crazy. But this is what it's about. He said it shall come to pass. It shall be in that day, verse 10, there shall be a root of Jesse which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek. See, there's going to be some Gentiles that are smart enough to know who Israel is. It's like we got Gentiles that know that now. Like one of the sisters in L.A. She understands that perfectly.
Yes, sir.
But go ahead.
And his rest shall be glorious.
And his rest shall be glorious, it said. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people.
See, he brought us out of Egypt the first time, but we messed up and he had to disperse us again. So that's why he said the second time. But it's going to be on that order. It's going to be a great deliverance. Not going to be nothing that happened one night and you wake up all of a sudden Israel back. Nobody really know what happened. And you still fighting for the land. Ain't going to be no more fighting when the Lord get through fighting. Pharaoh wasn't trying to fight no more when his army got drowned in the Red Sea, was it?
That's right.
Where it's going to be the same scenario. It said, he shall, what verse you at?
Verse 11. It shall come to pass in that day that the Lord will set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar, from the Hamath and from the isles of the sea.
So in other words, all over, we scattered out. Just like we was reading about how they was taking slaves even around from Britain. They even had a circuit that they went through. They'd take the goods that they had, they'd get the slaves and take them to America, get stuff from America, take that back to some of them countries, get some more slaves. sell the goods to somebody else, get some money, go buy some more slaves. But now, go ahead, verse 12.
And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
All over the world, just like Jesus said, though, from the four winds. But now, what magnitude is this going to be on? Verse 15, and we're going to wrap it up. Let's see what scale this is going to be on. Go ahead.
And the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea.
So he's going to be splitting rivers and seas and all that again. Go ahead.
And with his mighty wind shall he make his hand over the shall he shake his hand over the rivers, and shall smite it into seven streams, and make men go over dry shod.
Just like when they left Egypt, they went over dry shod. But this is not Egypt. This is in our days. Go ahead.
And there shall be an highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt.
See, it's going to be on that scale. It's going to be a great deliverance, and everybody going to know who Israel is then. So I hope you got some understanding in Jesus' name.